You mentioned that your father was in the business, which gave you a little bit of confidence that, when you started out, that there would be a market for the whiskeys that you were making. Can you tell me a little bit about when you thought you would sort of get into the business and what did you study?
Well, I had an inclination to do business from a very young age. Even when I was studying, I used to have, distribution for different brands of liquor. I would make sure that some brands were supplied, and I would take a commission even at a very young age. I used to accompany my dad during his trips to we were in country liquor business before, and that used to be like an auction every year. In every state and every district, there used to be auctions being held to have the right to sell the country liquor in a particular area. So I would go with him in the early days, even when I was in school and in college. I mean, initially there was a lot of interest for me, so from the get go I knew business was something that I wanted to start. And then of course, after I got out from college, I first went into making of biscuits. I bought over a company that was actually closed, which was making biscuits, but that was a disaster. Lost all the money. I had to go into hiding. But it taught me a lot of stuff. What the real business world is. And then subsequently, I managed to get a license to manufacture alcohol, and then I put up the distillery, as I said, because my dad was in trading of alcohol, and he had a lot of retail shops. So I put up the distillery and started the brands, my own brands, to start off with launch, and then we moved into Original Choice, and the history is now the single malt.
So, just some brass tacks. How many cases are you doing currently in a year across your different brands?
We will close this year with, I think, roughly somewhere around more than 22 million cases.
Okay, and this is once the expansion is in swing, and you're making a lot more whiskey at your Goa distillery. What are you looking to hit? What is the projection?
That will take another 6 years for it to start coming out. So for the next 6 years, we have to sit with whatever is in the casks. So I think that's a long way off before we actually start. But yeah, if we've increased our production, then it's going to go up by 4 times. So maybe 300,000 or 500,000 cases per year after the deduction for evaporation losses in the single malt category is what we will be selling after 6 years from now.
So, what percentage of your business is domestic versus international market?
Well, for the single malt business, it's about, I would say, somewhere between 35% to 40% of the single malts that we sell is international sales, and the balance is domestic sales. But the cheaper brands, it's almost 95% is domestic sales, and it's only about 5% we sell abroad, because the cheaper brands, there's a lot of restrictions in most countries. They do not allow, because if it's not matured for more than 2 years, the classification to be called a whiskey in most countries is that it has to be matured for more than at least 2 years in casks. And most of the domestic brands that we sell are not matured, so we will not qualify to be called as whiskeys in most of the countries. But in Africa, in the Gulf countries, we are, and to some extent we have some matured blended whiskeys also, like for example to Japan and Australia and things like that. We are sending some blended whiskeys also.
Any new launches in the pipeline?
I mean, there are a few brands that we are, looking at. Like I mentioned, the rum is on board, and then we have a Madeira finish, which is another, cask finish of, a sherry cask finish that we will be launching very soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. This has been so wonderful to chat with you. I cannot wait for the Christmas blend to come out, because every year you do something slightly different,
Yes,
even though they're all variations of the fruitcake that
yes,
we all know.
sure,
So, congratulations on that, and
definitely.
thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure talking to you.